Hello, and welcome to the Pronunciation Studio podcast, the only place where you will hear an English teacher simultaneously trying to breathe life into an old and decrepit IPA chart whilst burying bits of it alive. This week's episode is LIEPA, the Great Vowel Rift. So I started teaching a new course this week, and by new I mean from the beginning, learning the IPA chart, new students. I find that when you present the IPA for the first time, there are basically two reactions. One is essentially a panic attack. Get me out of here. There are too many symbols on that thing. And the other extreme is, hallelujah, I've found the answer to all my English-speaking problems, and possibly the answer to all my problems, including the leaking tap in the kitchen. But I think most people are somewhere in between, a little bit apprehensive perhaps, but also intrigued and keen to use this tool. IPA actually isn't for everyone. Some learners really don't get on with it, and this broadly depends on their language learning background, but I'm not going to go into that today. I'll do another POG on learning styles later. When it comes to English IPA, there's no doubt that vowels represent the biggest challenge for most learners, and it's the scariest looking part of the IPA. Lots of strange symbols, a few of which seem to be upside down, or am I hallucinating? There's also diacritics and even a section where two symbols are together, seemingly ganging up on us. And this POG is really all about this issue. How should we break this vowel section down into learnable chunks for learners who are at different stages of panic? You can't teach 20 sounds in one go, though I do like to whet the appetite by going through them all in the first class. I think there are essentially three ways of grouping the vowels: by length, by tongue position, or by mouth space. You can see diagrams of all of these on the podcast page of the Pronunciation Studio site, so as I describe them you can see how they would actually look to a learner. So if we do it by length, we get the short monophthong vowels, the long monophthong vowels, and the long diphthong vowels as follows. So the first group is short monophthongs, I, U, E, O, A. The second group is long monophthongs, I, U, E, O, R. And the third group is long diphthongs, I, U, A, O, I, Oi, Ow. Now, I know some phoneticians have just spat their coffee out hearing that, and rightly so you'd better nip out and grab another while I explain why this is actually the best way to group them. Of course, there is no innate length in any vowel sound. In many ways, it's the worst way to describe a vowel. But what's the aim for newbies? It's quite simply to get used to the IPA chart, to get familiar with the symbols, and get an idea of the full English soundscape. At this stage, I think we have to lie a little bit. I think we have to pretend that categories exist that don't really exist. But when you learn most things, this happens. The first thing you learn in physics is not quantum mechanics. Instead, you learn a load of laws that you later discover are incompatible with quantum mechanics. So yeah, lying's good, as long as you correct the lie later. But what about the other ways of describing the vowels? If we do them by starting position, that would be the front, centre and back tongue positions, then you end up with a hodgepodge of sounds. Yes, it's good to learn the positions. It's the most important thing of all, and this should be the main focus as learners progress. But presenting a learner with these groups, here we go. First group is the front, so that's I, ear, a, ow. Then we've got the centre, the second group, u, o, I, r. And now the back ones, u, o, oi, o. I think it's more confusing than if you do the first option. There's just a big mixture of sounds going on there, and most learners, when they start, don't really have a good idea of where the tongue is in their mouth. They've never really thought about it. It's a bit of an advanced skill, that one. Then you've got the mouth space approach, essentially treating the vowels as three groups: short, long, closing. So the short group is I, U, E, O, A. The long group is I, U, E, O, R. And the closing group is I, U, A, I, O, oi, ow. I'll go into this more later when I do POGs on the phonetics section of the course. The problem with this approach, although there is a logic to it, is that learners are not familiar with putting sounds into these categories, and it doesn't match dictionary IPA. It also gives us E and U as closing diphthongs, which is neat but problematic. Again, I'll go into that can of worms later. So there you go. Of the three approaches to breaking the vowels up, I like and still use the first. I know it's a lie, but it's a lie that ensures fast progress in the first step of learning pronunciation for most people, namely the IPA chart. Question. 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 Iwa. I've had a question in from Alicia in Peru, who DM'd on Instagram asking, what happened? Now, she's referring to a photo I posted last week of 4 gravestones with the sounds oa, ua, air and ear on them, and RIP centering diphthongs as the title. It actually got quite a lot of attention, one person in Australia writing in, "They're alive and kicking here, mate." But most questions were, like Alicia's, "Can you explain this, please?" So here goes. Centering diphthongs, ua, ua, air, ear, appeared in London accents when they became non-rhotic, when the R disappeared. So, moa, mua, mea, mea. No R's. So essentially, you say a schwa, instead of the R, which makes it a bit diphthongal. This set of diphthongs went to Australia with Londoners a couple of centuries ago and have stayed put there. But in the south of England, they've basically smoothed out, so now we have long vowels and some mergers instead, giving us more, mu, mare and mere. The sounds are at different stages of smoothing. Oa has totally smoothed to or in GB, ua has smoothed to or merged with or, air has smoothed to air, and ear can smooth to ear. So ear is probably the only one that's still alive now, but it's on its way out, so I buried it anyway. If you're walking through a diphthong graveyard and hear a scratching noise, it might be ear trying to get out. Help! I'm in here! I recommend leaving it there. American pronunciation never had these non-rhotic versions, so you just say the short vowel with an R. Much easier. More, moor, mer, mir. I hope this answers your question, Alicia. If you have any questions, you can contact me via the website, via the socials, or by email, joseph.hudson@pronunciationstudio.com. Thanks for listening. Speak soon.